Alrighty, so in case you haven't heard yet, there was just a massive Pokemon leak that just took place that has revealed a ton of beta information for various Pokemon games. In fact, this leak is apparently so huge that it looks like it's going to continue to release new information over the coming days. This is a very fluid and developing situation, but we have got some absolutely insane stuff that is leaked so far, and since a lot of it is beta cut information and cut content, including cut Pokemon, this stuff is just right up my alley. So obviously I had to talk about it, but the thing is, there is so much of this stuff that I am not going to be covering it all in this video. I am just going to give you guys some of my personal highlights, and depending on how this situation continues to develop, I will continue to cover things that I find interesting or cool or just feel like I want to report on and make a video about. So strap on in, because this is going to be an insane one. In particular, we're going to be looking at mostly some beta Pokemon designs that have leaked, but also a couple other things as well. And like I said, this stuff is absolutely insane, and it doesn't even look like we've really scratched the surface of what is about to be revealed. So we are in for a wild ride. I'm going to be doing this video pretty casually and just going through these Pokemon and giving my thoughts and opinions on them and just talking about them just casual style. So hopefully you guys are down for that. And to do that, I am going to be using this handy little compilation image of all these Pokemon that have been leaked as of the making of this video that was created by this person over on Twitter, so shout out to them. And if you want to look it up yourself, you can go check them out on Twitter. And without further ado, let's just get into it. The first Pokemon that I wanted to look at is a cut starter Pokemon, aka this guy right here. This was concept art of the Hoenn starters that is apparently leaked, and it showcases the early beta Torchic design that we've known about. It showcases a mostly final but still beta Trico, and then a completely different water starter that evidently replaced Mudkip. And really quick, I also just want to say, with everything that is going on here, obviously it's coming. There's so much that's coming so fast, so it is possible that I could get some details wrong here. If I do, I apologize, but everything that I'm about to talk about and say and show, to my knowledge, has been basically vetted and confirmed and is totally legit. But I'm not gonna guarantee that I might not say something that is not 100% true. So just keep that in mind as we talk about this. This is all very new information for all of us, and I'm only human. So I'm going to do my best here to keep things as accurate as possible, but just keep that in mind because, as I said, this is a very fluid and developing situation, and there's also a ton to take in here. But with that said, literally, this is a cut starter Pokemon, which is mind-boggling, and it's a water bunny, and it has a little inner tube wrapped around its waist. Are you kidding me? Like, I love Mudkip. I'm glad we got Mudkip, but this is just groundbreaking stuff. And it honestly kind of reminds me of Scorbunny, not only because it's a bunny, but it also has a very similar design, with white being the primary color and then the blue accents being pretty similar to Scorbunny's red accents as a fire type. So it kind of makes me wonder if they sort of drew upon that possibly for Scorbunny's design. But either way, water bunny, that would have been insane. Like, just absolutely mind-blowing stuff. However, there was also stuff from Gen 5 that was leaked as well, and so I'm going to go to that stuff next for a second, and I'm going to start with this guy. This guy looks absolutely insane. Like, I don't even know where to begin, and I'm just honestly just saddened and just flabbergasted that this guy was cut. How could you cut something that looks this cool? He looks like some kind of like prehistoric dinosaur looking thing, like not a fossil Pokemon literally, but it just has that type of vibe, and it looks absolutely incredible. So I don't know what the logic would have been here to cut this thing, but it straight up looks insane, and it looks like a pretty like finalized design too, so it doesn't look as if it was cut early in development. It looks like it made it pretty far before it was scrapped, which sucks. So yeah, I really wish that guy would have made it in. Other highlights I want to talk about in Gen 5, and you can obviously just see these. I'm not going to talk about them all, but you can view them at your leisure. However, I do want to give some time to talk about these original forces of nature, who I'm going to assume are Thundurus and Tornadus, and these guys actually look good. Like, I do not like the forces of nature, but these actually look pretty legit and cool, and I would have been down. I at least would have been more down if their designs had looked more like this, because this is the kind of thing that I want out of that kind of Pokemon. So again, another thing that would have been amazing to actually have in the final games. Also, we have something really crazy here, because we finally have a first look at the original designs for Dino, Zweilous, and Hydreigon, because in case you aren't aware, we've known for a while that these Pokemon were originally based on tanks, and that's where they get the tread pattern on their design in the final games. Well, that's what these designs are basically, is those tank forms. You can see it right here on the early Zweilous. It's got those tank patterns right there. They obviously do look a little more metallic, I guess you could say, and a little more in that vein of a tank and more tank-like. And then Hydreigon right here still has obviously the 1, 2, and 3 head motif, but yeah, we finally have got a glimpse at that design. And another thing we've also got a glimpse of is blue Stunfisk. We've also known that Stunfisk used to be blue and originally was water type as well, but then it got changed due to type balancing. Well, here it is. Finally, we get to see what blue Stunfisk looks like, and I honestly do think it looks better. I think the blue, dark blue, yellow, that just looks really good. So, like, again, another thing from this crop that would have been amazing to see in the final games. And speaking of a Pokemon like Stunfisk that is generally seen as just like not good, and I've also given my fair share of hate to Stunfisk over the years. But with that said, I'm going to transition over to this piece of art right here, which is a beta design for Simisear. And Simisear is obviously super hated, but I feel like it would be way more loved if it was just a chonker like this, because this actually would have given it some genuine character instead of being seen as like a just a cheap Walmart version of Infernape, which I feel like is kind of the general sentiment that Simisear gets. This would have actually given it a little bit of originality, I guess you could say, and it would have given it a sense of endearment, I feel like. So this version of Simisear would have been awesome. And it's kind of crazy now that I think about it, that the elemental monkeys were not, like, we didn't get one that was like this, that was like chonkier and fatter, considering they're so heavily themed around food, especially with them being the signature Pokemon, at least in their first forms, of the Striaton Gym, which is literally like a restaurant. So it is kind of funny that we didn't end up getting that, but it seems maybe like that's what they were going for with this Simisear design, and I absolutely love it. And I think, again, it would have been really cool to have that in the final games. We've also got a beta form of Liepard, which is way better than what we got in the final game. I'm also a Liepard hater. Sorry to all the Liepard fans out there, but this color scheme would have been so awesome. And the reason why I don't like Liepard, a big reason why, is because of its color scheme. I'm not really a fan of I guess just the busyness of its color scheme, but this just looks so sleek, so cool. The black and the red is just legit. Like, this would have been like just an A+ Pokemon if it would have simply had that color scheme. So it's once again a shame that it didn't get that. I'm also going to come down here and highlight these early protagonist designs for Unova, and I don't know if this is for Black and White 1 or Black and White 2. I kinda want to say Black and White 2 just because the male player character right here has a visor, which obviously matches Nate from the final games, who also has a visor, but it could be either. And with that said though, I like the look of both of them. The female character in particular with the bandana is really cool. It's kind of like I mean, it's kind of almost like an alternate version of May, because May obviously had a bandana as well, but overall they both look really cool, so I'm really down with that. And with that said, I think that does cover all of the Gen 5 stuff that I wanted to cover, so I'm going to go over here and go to the Gen 4 stuff that we've seen to this point. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is Beta Lickylicky. Now, we actually got a while ago a back sprite for this, and now we have the whole thing, and this looks absolutely incredible and also way better than the final Lickylicky. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Lickylicky or Lickitung evolves into Lickylicky when leveled up while using rollout. And this design explains why that is, because this is a circular Pokemon that obviously would do some rolling, versus Lickylicky, where that kind of, the final one anyway, where that doesn't quite make as much sense. So this is why Lickitung evolves that way, which I'm pretty sure it does. Could be, I'm going off the top of my head here, but I believe that's the case. And again, this would be the reason why, which is just absolutely so interesting and cool. The next thing, which has kind of been getting a lot of attention on the internet, is this. I want to say this is an early version of Wash Rotom, because we also have Mow Rotom and Freeze Rotom right here, the ice form. So I want to say this is an early version of Wash Rotom, but it looks to be a sink, and also it also kind of looks like a toilet, which is what everyone has been referring to it as, Toilet Rotom. And I don't think this is actually a toilet. I think it's a sink, because again, I think it's Wash Rotom, but it also is really, really interesting because it's just like a whole different look to the Wash Rotom that we actually got. Also, another big thing from this batch of Gen 4 stuff is this right here. Early beta designs for the Team Galactic admins, which honestly look way better than what we got in the final game. Don't have anything against their final designs, but these just look better. They look a little more tribal to me, I guess you could say. They also look a little more feral, where their final designs, they're very like, their attire, they're dressed very neatly and formally like they're business people. These designs look, like I said, not as business-like. They're a little more tribal, a little more feral, a little more, I almost get like a religious sort of vibe, like they are dressed as if they're a part of some sort of like cult or tribe or religious group or something like that. That's the kind of just general vibe I'm getting from these outfits versus what they have in the final games, and I genuinely like them a lot. Let's see. You've got Mars right here, Jupiter, and then Saturn in particular probably has the biggest change. I'm pretty sure that's Saturn. I'm not getting them mixed up. But again, I think he's got the biggest difference because he's got the hairstyle difference. His outfit is also pretty different, and he looks awesome. Like, he looks super great. So again, something that I absolutely would loved to have had in the final game. And while a lot of this stuff does look very beta-like, like, this is something that you could have just straight up put into the game and it would have been great. Maybe a little bit of polish, but in general, yeah, absolutely. And now we're going to come back to the Gen 3 side of things and highlight a few more things that I wanted to highlight before I pretty much have covered everything that I wanted to comment about. I'm going to go right here first and foremost to this Beta Sharpedo, which honestly looks insane. Again, I don't want to just beat a dead horse, but I feel like this Beta Sharpedo is better than the final one. There's part of me that feels like it does feel a little more like Beta-E compared to the final Sharpedo, but also I feel like I just prefer this design more, which again is just absolutely insane. Like, this design looks great. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this. Do you know what this is? No? If you don't feel bad because I had no idea what this is, but I later found out that apparently this is Nuzleaf. This is what Nuzleaf used to look like, and it actually makes sense once you think about it, because the Nuzleaf family are based on the Tengu, which is a Japanese yokai or folktale-like creature, and you can totally see that in this design with the long red nose and just the red body, and then it's got the stilt shoes that it's walking on as well, which is another key aspect of it, and you also see that on the final shift tree design as well. So yeah, Nuzleaf was apparently going to look way different and way more close to that Tengu inspiration, so that's pretty wild. Right next to it, you've got Beta Pelipper, which is fairly close to the final design, other than it's got like a hairstyle going on, so that's pretty cool. This one right here, this white dragon looking thing, is also really interesting because it's not like, I don't think it's confirmed at all, like it's just speculation as to what this Pokemon is actually supposed to be, but there is some speculation that it could possibly be a Beta Rayquaza, which is kind of insane if that is actually the case, but again, that's just speculation, so draw your own conclusion there. Another one I also wanted to touch on really quick is, where did he go? Right here, this guy, which you probably can recognize as Makuhita, and this design isn't that different from the final design. It's mostly a color change and a couple small details, but again, I feel like I like this design better than the final one, which is genuinely really crazy. Another one, and it's really insane how good these designs that just didn't make the final cut actually are. Like, it makes you wonder what about the final designs did they like better. And another example of this is the cast form family. This is the original like cast form base form, and then you have the flying type, you have the water type, and you have the fire type. And these look amazing. Like, I think cast form is a good design in the final games, have no problems with it, but I just love how cute and adorable the base form looks. And while the flying form is kind of a little generic, I would say, because it's just a tornado with a face basically, I love how different each of them look and how they have their own identity. And these two, the water and the fire form, beautiful, absolutely amazing. So I would have loved to have had these designs in the game as well, particularly the base form, because it just looks friggin' adorable. Another crazy revelation, though, is this guy. Does this look familiar to you? Well, it should, and if you haven't figured it out yet, this evidently is Scrafty. Because as you can see, it's got, I mean, it looks pretty different, but it's got the very distinct theme of it wearing the skin pants and it's being a lizard and all that stuff. Like, it has that exact theme that Scrafty has. So it seems like this is what Scrafty eventually became, meaning that Scrafty, or at least its concept, was originally planned for Generation 3, which is just absolutely insane. It obviously looks way different, probably had a different type at this point, but yeah, this is essentially, and most likely, Beta Scrafty. So, Scrafty was originally going to be a Hoenn Pokemon. Like, absolutely insane. I'm honestly, like, floored with this leak, but I'm so happy about it because this stuff just fascinates me to no end. So I really hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. I also wanted to touch on this really quick. This seems to me to be Beta Sableye because, I mean, obviously the theme is there and the gems and all that, so I'm pretty sure that's Beta Sableye. Looks pretty interesting, just looks like a beta, like, again, like a more true beta form of the Pokemon versus something like this that just looks straight up better. And then you've also got some other stuff like Beta Flygon, that's pretty crazy. You've got Beta Seedot right here, which is pretty crazy, Beta Lombre, and a bunch of others. I'm not going to discuss all these here, and those are pretty much all the ones that I wanted to touch on in this video. But if you guys want to check it out for yourself, a simple Google or trip to Twitter to this guy's page will get you where you want to go. And I will potentially be covering more of this if more stuff comes up that piques my interest and is stuff I want to talk about, which is probably going to happen, to be honest, because this stuff is amazing. There's just so much to cover that I can't possibly cover it all, to be honest. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know all your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. Which one of these guys would you want to actually see in a game, or what would you have wanted to actually make the cut into the final games? Let me know. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe as well, and stay tuned for more content. And thanks so much for watching, and until the next one, I will smell you guys later.